It's late. You told yourself you'd sleep an hour ago. Your thumb moves on its own. It flicks the screen upward, again and again, dragging an endless river of posts past your tired eyes, and not one of them is actually making you happy. A video you don't finish, a photo you don't care about, an argument between strangers you will never meet. You're not enjoying this. You know you're not. So, why can't you put the phone down? Why does your thumb keep reaching for one more flick, long after the fun ran out? You probably blame yourself. Weak willpower, a bad habit, a brain that's just a little too lazy to stop. But the real answer is far stranger. You are not scrolling because the feed is interesting. You are scrolling because most of it isn't. The boredom you feel is not a sign the machine is failing. The boredom is the fuel, and the whole system was built, very deliberately, to run on it. To understand why, you have to go back to a small wooden box and a hungry pigeon. In the middle of the last century, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner was studying how animals learn. He built a simple box with a lever inside. A pigeon or a rat would press the lever, and sometimes a pellet of food would drop. Skinner's real genius was not the box, it was what he discovered about timing. At first, he gave a reward every single time the lever was pressed. The animal learned quickly. But something odd happened. When the food stopped coming, the animal gave up almost immediately. Predictable rewards created a fragile habit. Break the pattern once, and the behavior collapsed. Then, Skinner tried something else. He made the reward random. Now the lever paid out sometimes, but not every time, and never on a schedule the animal could predict. Maybe the third press. Maybe the 20th. And this changed everything. The animals didn't just keep pressing. They pressed like their lives depended on it. Faster and longer than before. And when the food finally stopped for good, they kept hammering that lever hundreds of times, refusing to believe it was over. Skinner had found the most powerful pattern in behavioral science. He called it the variable ratio schedule. A reward you cannot predict is far more compelling than a reward you can. Does that pattern sound familiar yet? Think about what your thumb is really doing. Each flick is a lever press. Most of the time, the payout is nothing. Boredom, filler, another post you forget the instant it passes. But every so often, without warning, something lands. A laugh, a jolt of outrage, a face you wanted to see. You never know which flick it will be, and that not knowing is exactly what keeps your thumb moving. The feed is a Skinner box, and you are the pigeon, but this goes deeper than habit. To see why the uncertainty grips you so tightly, you have to look at a single chemical inside your brain and at the scientist who spent his career decoding it. His name is Wolfram Schultz, a neuroscientist who studied a chemical messenger you have almost certainly heard of. Dopamine. For a long time, everyone assumed dopamine was the brain's pleasure chemical, the thing that floods you when something good happens. Schultz recorded from single dopamine neurons in the brain and discovered the truth was much stranger. Dopamine is not really about pleasure, it is about prediction. Here is what he found. When a reward arrived unexpectedly, dopamine spiked. That much made sense, but once the animal learned that a signal always came before the reward, the spike moved. It stopped firing for the reward itself and started firing for the signal, for the moment of anticipation. Dopamine was not celebrating the prize, it was reacting to the promise of one. It fires before you get the thing, in the space of wanting. And Schultz uncovered one more detail, the detail that explains your thumb completely. Dopamine responds most powerfully not to reward, but to uncertainty. When his team set up a situation where a reward might come, a 50-50 gamble, the dopamine signal did something remarkable. It didn't just spike and stop, it climbed and kept climbing all the way through the waiting peaking exactly when the outcome was most unknown. Certainty is calm. Maybe is electric, your brain pours out the most dopamine not when it wins but when it might. Sit with what that means for the phone in your hand. Every time you pull down to refresh, you are placing a tiny bet. Maybe there's something good, maybe there's nothing. And in that half second of not knowing, your brain lights up harder than it would if you were guaranteed a reward. The pleasure was never the point. The maybe is the point. You are not chasing the good post, you are chasing the gap right before you find out. This is not an accident. And this is where the story turns from your brain to the people who studied how to exploit it. An anthropologist named Natasha Dow Schull spent more than 15 years inside the casinos of Las Vegas, studying the design of slot machines and the people who cannot leave them. She was not interested in the gamblers who dreamed of a jackpot. She was interested in the ones who kept playing long after they had stopped hoping to win. What she found was a state so specific she gave it a name: the machine zone. In the machine zone, time disappears. The world narrows to a single glowing rectangle and the small motion of a hand. Winning stops mattering. The goal is not to win. The goal is to stay in the zone, to keep the smooth, frictionless rhythm going forever, feeding the loop simply to remain inside it. Read that again and picture yourself in bed, thumb flicking, hours gone, not even hoping for anything good anymore. Schull's most unsettling discovery was that the machines were engineered, down to the millisecond, to produce exactly that trance. Nothing was left to chance. The speed of play, the near misses, the way a loss is dressed up to feel like a win, the total absence of any natural stopping point. The machine was designed so that the most comfortable thing you could possibly do was keep going, and every technique she documented on the casino floor now lives in your pocket. The infinite feed that never hits a bottom, so there is never a moment that says stop. The pull to refresh gesture, which the designer who invented it has openly compared to yanking a slot machine lever. The little pause before the numbers load, stretching out your uncertainty on purpose. The variable, unpredictable trickle of rewards, straight out of Skinner's box. None of this is accidental. It is the most sophisticated behavioral engineering ever built, aimed with great precision at the exact circuit Schultz found firing in the dark. So when you lie there, bored, unable to stop, understand what is actually happening. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are a normal human being running a very old survival program, a program that rewards you for seeking, for chasing the maybe, for never quite being satisfied. For millions of years, that restlessness kept your ancestors alive, always looking for the next meal, the next opportunity, the next scrap of useful news. That same hunger is now being pointed back at you through a screen designed to never let it rest. Does knowing this set you free? Not by itself. You cannot out-argue a circuit this old with a single fact. But something does change once you can see the machine for what it is. The next time your thumb keeps flicking through a feed that bores you, you don't have to call it a character flaw. You can call it what it is: a lever, a bet. A tiny hit of maybe, delivered on a schedule that was tuned to keep you reaching. And the moment you can name the pull, you get back the one thing the machine was built to take from you: a choice. It's late. Your thumb is still moving on its own, flicking the screen upward, chasing the next maybe. But now you know what it's reaching for, and you know it was never really you who wanted one more flick. Thanks so much for watching. If this changed the way you see your own feed, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.